Chapter 2374 Drucker's Genetic Factors 1. Zhang Yi's words were like a depth charge dropped on a calm lake, stirring up a tidal wave in the shadow space and in the hearts of Brian and Da Vinci in reality. Brian's eyes widened, his tongue lolling out as he mumbled, "2 pieces of paper, a hole. Antimatter? Woof. Although I didn't understand most of it, it feels like you've discovered something incredible, boss." It instinctively felt that this seemed much more important than the meaty bones it loved to hide. However, compared to the silicone products that Fatty Sue gave him, they were almost indistinguishable. Professor Leonardo da Vinci fell into a long silence. Through his high-tech eyepiece, data streams flashed, collided, and reassembled at an unprecedented speed. He crossed his arms, his body trembling, and though he tried to appear calm, his voice still betrayed his disbelief and excitement. A genius, no, a divinely inspired idea. If this model holds true, then most of the foundations of existing physics, energy science, and even philosophy will need to be rewritten. What we've studied in the past may just be the surface covering the real thing. Zhang Yi, the value of your words far exceeds the essence of 1,000 or even 100 ypsilons. That's right, that's exactly it. This explains many paradoxes in the scientific field. The reason why the speed of light cannot be exceeded is because there are rules from the Creator that limit it. But if we can transcend the surface universe and enter this universe, we can transcend all of this. Even travel through time via wormholes that allow for spatial jumps. Professor Leonardo da Vinci squatted in a corner, talking to himself, looking like a madman. Only someone as accomplished in scientific research as Yang Xinxin could understand why he was so excited. Although Zhou Ke, Yang Xia, and the others could not fully comprehend the profound meaning behind it, they understood from the solemn expressions of Leonardo da Vinci and Yang Xinxin that this was an absolutely groundbreaking discovery concerning the very foundation of their existence. Amidst this atmosphere of shock and contemplation, a cool, slightly languid voice, imbued with an endless ancient charm, suddenly resounded deep within Zhang Yi's consciousness, clearly echoing throughout the entire shadow space. "You're quite something to have realized this." Zhang Yi smiled and looked up. The voice belonged to Ling. This swordsman of the Aihen race is an ancient being who exists in Zhang Yi's alternate dimension in human form. She rarely speaks on her own initiative. She only gives a curt answer when Zhang Yi asks a question. This time, however, she took the initiative to speak. Is it the effect of Zheng Lu's original ether fragments? At this moment, however, her voice carried an undisguised surprise. A thought struck Zhang Yi, and he sank his consciousness into the area of the alternate dimension that had been specially designated for Ling. The silver-haired, red-eyed girl was hovering silently in midair, her eyes, which seemed to have seen through the rise and fall of countless ages, staring at him intently. "Ling, do you agree with my guess?" Zhang Yi asked. Ling didn't answer directly but slowly said, "It's not simple. Throughout countless eras, there have been only a handful of beings who have been able to touch the mystery of the foundation. The universe that Kagago created is too perfect, so perfect that most beings are so immersed in the power of appearances that they forget to ask about the source." She abruptly changed the subject, her tone becoming serious and even warning. "However, Zhang Yi, you must understand. Spying on or even attempting to utilize the power of this universe is an extremely dangerous path. That power is the foundation, the source, but it also represents chaos and undifferentiated. It is not as gentle and controllable as the fragments of ether. If you are not careful, the backlash will be enough to completely collapse you and everything around you, returning you to the most primitive particle state." She stared at Zhang Yi, as if trying to see into his soul. You need to find the perfect balance between these two forces, like walking a tightrope over a bottomless abyss, to truly master it instead of being swallowed by it. Right now, you've only seen the existence of the tightrope. You're still far from walking on it. Zhang Yi nodded seriously. Ling's warning coincided with his earlier premonition of danger. But he was not afraid. Instead, his eyes shone with an even brighter light. High risk often means high reward, especially in this apocalyptic world where strength is the key to survival. He suddenly recalled Samuel's theory of devouring, and then, thinking of the danger Ling had mentioned, a thought flashed through his mind, and he asked in a somewhat teasing tone. Ling, so you're saying that Drucker, the giant god Samuel, and the others are following this path of frantically absorbing the power of the Foundation Stone? No wonder they're so powerful and crazy. Are they trying to start anew, create a new universe, and not recognize Kagago as their leader? TSK. No wonder from the first generation to our sixth generation, all the human races of different eras have had to join forces to beat him up. This is an attempt to overturn the fundamental laws set by the creator. When Ling heard Zhang Yi's down-to-earth yet insightful teasing, she remained silent for a moment, and her perpetually indifferent face seemed to twitch very slightly. She said slowly, "Your analogy is simple, but it's not wrong in some ways. What the Druk gods seek is not to return to their origin, but to find the meaning of their own existence. They are unwilling to be observers of Kagago. They believe that Kagago's creation is a shackle, an illusion. And this has indeed touched upon the taboo of the creator. Destroying them is inevitable." Zhang Yi grasped the key information in Ling's words. He toned down his teasing expression and asked the question that had been lingering in his mind. Ling, what about us? Our 6 generations seem to be the weakest in history. Why is the creator making humans regress more and more? Or is there some special purpose behind it? He used that word very directly. To you ancient civilizations, we are like infants just learning to walk. Did the creator expect us, so weak, to defeat the almost godlike Druckers? What secrets are hidden within us? This question also made everyone in the shadow space hold their breath. This is the ultimate question concerning the origin and destiny of their entire ethnic group. Ling fell into a long silence once again, this time longer than ever before. In that alternate dimension, time seemed to stand still, with only her silver hair swaying gently in the silent flow of energy. Finally, she raised her crimson eyes, her gaze piercing through the barriers of the alternate dimension, as if seeing into the deepest recesses of Zhang Yi's soul. Her voice was low and clear as she spoke, word by word. Because deep within the genetic sequence of your 6 generations lies the Drucker genetic material. Chapter 2375 Drucker's Genetic Factors 2. What? These words were like a thunderbolt. Zhang Yi suddenly raised his head. Although he was somewhat surprised, he remained calm. He had speculated about this possibility. The ancient civilizations described Drucker as follows in their historical records. They are fierce and powerful, with extremely tenacious vitality. Even if the creator used every means at his disposal, sending down glaciers that hadn't melted for millions of years, dropping meteorites from the depths of space, unleashing massive floods, and shifting continental plates. However, the Drucker people still managed to survive. No matter how many times, no matter how powerful the civilization or race the creator creates, even if the Druckers are initially suppressed, they will always be able to fight back. This sense of resilience and tenacity is very much like that of the 6th generation of humans. Greed, tenacity, and resilience, aren't these exactly the traits of Zhang Yi and his group? In the midst of the apocalypse, they struggled and emerged from dire straits time and time again. Now, there are already 2 ancient civilizations that have been destroyed by Zhang Yi and his group. If such a race were allowed to grow for billions of years, they would certainly arouse Kagago's apprehension. They are the cancer cells of this universe. Inside the shadow space, a collective gasp of astonishment rippled through the air. Professor Leonardo da Vinci's eyes widened in shock, but he quickly lowered his head in deep thought. We are actually descendants of the Druckers? This is shocking. Brian immediately jumped up and barked loudly. But soon it suddenly froze. Hey, you're descendants of the Druckers. What does that have to do with me? I'm a dog. Having figured this out, it let out a long sigh. Damn it, I almost empathized with you guys. Zhou Kur covered her mouth, and Yang Xia almost dropped the cup in her hand. Even Yang Xinxin, who usually had no expression, had a slight twitch in her deep eyes. Does the gene pool of 6 generations contain Drucker-like elements? The truth was so shocking that it almost overturned all their understanding. They are tools used by the creator to eliminate rebellion, yet the blood of rebels flows in their veins. Zhang Yi quickly calmed down, her mind racing, countless clues beginning to connect. So, that's why I could absorb the Mad Owl's essence relatively easily? Why can I both resonate with and resist Samuel's mental pollution? Why can I vaguely sense the power of this universe? Because we share the same origin. Ling confirmed Zhang Yi's conjecture. Yes. You are a collection of contradictions, the most complex and riskiest creation of the creator. He fused the bloodline of his mortal enemy into a new vessel, perhaps to understand his opponent, perhaps to create a more perfect cleaner, or perhaps he had a deeper purpose that even we cannot fathom. She looked at Zhang Yi with a complicated expression. Now, do you understand? What you are facing is not only the external Druk gods, but also the instinct and madness that belong to the Druk people hidden deep in your own blood. How to balance, manage, and even transcend this bloodline may be the key to whether you can survive and find the real answer. The amount of information was enormous, and Zhang Yi needed time to process it. But his gaze, fixed on the depths of the forest, became even more resolute. The road ahead remains shrouded in mist, but at least he has gained a more fundamental understanding of himself and his 6 generations. Knowing yourself is always the first step to defeating all enemies. The truth revealed by Ling stirred up waves in Zhang Yi's heart that lingered for a long time. The discussions within the shadow space gradually subsided as everyone needed time to process this earth-shattering secret concerning their own origins. Zhang Yi's mind raced, connecting Ling's words, Samuel's whispers, and various clues from the past. A clear logical chain gradually formed in his mind. I see. Zhang Yi muttered to himself, his eyes sharp as knives. The creator created 6 generations of us, and the reason why he chose to incorporate the genes of the Drucker people was because he valued their almost immortal and tenacious vitality. It's like grafting the genes of the most stubborn weeds onto crops, hoping that the new varieties will retain the controllability of crops, while also possessing the survival ability of weeds. He looked at his hands, as if he could see through to the secrets hidden deep within his genes. He needs a knife that is tough enough to last no matter what, to accomplish the almost impossible task of eliminating the Druckers. Because we have inherited the Druckers' tenacity in our bones, making us difficult to completely eradicate. However, his tone immediately took on a cold, mocking edge. However, the creator clearly left a contingency plan. He gave us Drucker souls, but only a weak and feeble shell. It's like trying to kill an elephant by driving ants. Ants may be small, and they might succeed if they work together, but a single ant is ultimately no match for an elephant. He both wants us to succeed and fears that if we succeed, we will become a more troublesome entity than the Druckers, a new species with the tenacity of the Druckers, but not entirely under his control. This deduction made the atmosphere in the shadow space heavy again. If that's the case, then their situation is not just dangerous, but desperate. They were working for an employer who both wanted them to win and might destroy them once they did. An even more terrifying thought, like a cold, venomous snake, quietly coiled around Zhang Yi's mind. So, once the Drucker, this nail, has been completely devoured by us ants, and we've lost our usefulness, what will the creator do with us? Will he let us drift or, like a cleaning tool, wipe us out as well? It's most likely the latter, Zhang Yi thought. The thought sent chills down his spine. He shook his head violently, as if trying to banish this overly dark speculation from his mind. It's too early to think about these things now. Even if we guess Kaga's purpose, what can we do if we have no power to resist? He told himself, and his gaze became firm again. The most urgent task is to survive and become stronger. Only by having sufficient power can we have a voice in any future changes. Otherwise, we won't even qualify to be pawns. He composed himself and brought his attention back to reality. The dark sun forest was fraught with danger, and he couldn't afford to dwell on worries about the future for long. We've rested enough. It's time to set off. Upon hearing the instruction, Brian immediately perked up, pressing his nose to the ground and carefully discerning the faint traces of life remaining in the air. Over here, the sense of burning bones and that blind girl are still there, though they're fainter, but the direction is right. Chapter 2376 Drucker's Genetic Factors 3. The two people and the dog continued their journey through the dark and eerie forest. The surrounding scenery became increasingly desolate, with twisted trees gradually being replaced by jagged rocks and the ground hardening. Black stone pillars pierce the sky, and deep within the dark sun forest lies a steep and rugged mountain path, rising and falling, layer upon layer, as if one has entered a kingdom of towering mountains. Fortunately, Brian was there to guide us. Otherwise, we would most likely have gotten lost here by sight alone. After walking for a while, Brian suddenly stopped and sniffed hard at a pile of unidentified black lumps by the roadside. Woof! That's the smell. It's excrement. It's from about 3 days ago. Su Pengzi, hidden in Zhang Yi's shadow, heard Brian's words through the internal channel and couldn't help but tease him with his cheeky remarks. Oh my, Master Boo, you should smell it carefully. It might be something good. But I'm warning you, no matter how curious you are, don't sneak a bite. The things in this dark sun forest might be cursed. Fart. Brian was so angry his fur stood on end. He turned around and bared his teeth, roaring at Zhang Yi's shadow. Do you think I'm as desperate as you are? I only eat the premium dog food specially made by Miss Yang Xia. I wouldn't take this kind of weird stuff even if it were given to me for free. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll rub my pee on your pants leg next time. Come out and fight me one-on-one. If you're so capable, come and fight me one-on-one, and see if I bite you or not. Fatty Sue, unfazed in the shadows, shook his head with an irritating grin and said, So, what if you hit me and I hit you back? It won't change your habits. The unexpected joke made everyone feel a bit more relaxed, and the tense atmosphere eased considerably. Zhang Yi burst into laughter. Such harmless jokes are indeed a good way to lighten the mood during a tense adventure. Excrement, is it? Whose is it? This is a very crucial clue. Brian said with great certainty, It belongs to that little girl. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yi silently crossed his arms. You seem a bit perverted. Woof woof woof, woof 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 woof. Brian jumped back and forth angrily, baring his teeth at Zhang Yi to express his dissatisfaction. No, you're the one who made me do this job, and now you're complaining about me. What's wrong with girls? Don't girls need to poop? That's a misunderstanding. That's prejudice. There's no toilet here. Does she have to hold it in forever if she doesn't relieve herself in the wild? What if she gets sick from holding it in? Brian stood up and lunged at Zhang Yi's 2 large claws. Zhang Yi quickly grabbed the 2 lackeys who were lunging at him. All right, I understand. Control your emotions and your appetite. Anyway, now that we've confirmed we're on the right track, let's continue. Appetite. Brian paused for a moment, then realized that Zhang Yi was talking about it and barked angrily for a long time. Finally, after Zhang Yi agreed to go back, he created a super realistic dog girlfriend for Brian, which finally made Brian obediently agree to continue working. Brian kept his head down the whole way, searching for the auras of the meteor shower and the bone burner. It said smugly, Oh, this is the taste. So refreshing. After they finish defecating because there are no good conditions for cleaning, there is fecal residue on their bodies. All right, just lead the way, stop talking. I'm about to throw up. Woof, 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 woof. Damn it, don't bite me, or you'll break your teeth. After traveling several more kilometers, the terrain began to rise, and they arrived at the foot of a huge black mountain range. The mountain road is rugged, with only a narrow path winding upwards, flanked by steep black rock walls. At a relatively open bend in the path, something unusual blocked the way. It was a tall, human-shaped stone sculpture, carved entirely from the same black rock as the mountains. It stood quietly in the middle of the road, as if it had stood there for millions of years. The stone carving is crudely made, and it is only barely recognizable as the image of a knight wearing full armor, holding a huge crossed sword with both hands. His face is blurry and covered with a thick layer of dust. The stone sculpture appeared extremely abruptly and was completely out of place with its surroundings. There's something there. Brian immediately lowered his body and gave a warning growl. Yang Xinshin's eyes sharpened instantly, and the phantom of the fallen puppet materialized behind her. Zhang Yi raised his hand to signal them to calm down, and then solemnly examined the stone carving, comparing its image with the information in the database. He quickly recalled the scattered information about the Dark Sun Forest that he had obtained from Daolan and Gu Cheng before his departure. The more you observe, the more closely the image of the statue matches the person in the information. The cross-shaped two-handed greatsword is particularly noticeable. This is a former knight commander of the Dark Moon Empire who disappeared into the Dark Sun Forest after the failure of the Imperial Rebellion. Just as he was checking the database, something unexpected happened. Crack, crack. A faint yet distinct cracking sound came from the surface of the stone carving. The thick dust on the stone carving fell in a flurry, and cracks spread rapidly across its surface like a spider web. Back off. Zhang Yi spoke slowly, and at the same time, the all-encompassing defensive force field instantly unfolded, protecting him, Yang Xinshin, and Brian within it. Under the watchful eyes of the three, large chunks of the black rock shell on the surface of the stone sculpture peeled away, revealing its true form inside, not stone, but black armor that gleamed with a cold metallic luster. Finally, all the stone shells fell off, and a real figure appeared before them. He was over 2.5 meters tall and covered in heavy black armor with an antique style and covered in scratches. The helmet was shaped like two backward curving demon horns, and beneath the visor was a deep darkness, with only 2 points of scarlet light flickering within. The massive black cross-shaped sword in his hand had shed its stone disguise, revealing a cold, metallic blade with dark red energy pulsating like veins on its surface. A heavy, oppressive, and death-laden aura emanated from this person, no less than that of the mad owl they had encountered before. Zhang Yi's gaze became cautious. Based on the information provided by the Moon People and the distinctive appearance before him, he was almost certain of the other party's identity. Former rebellious knight commander of the Dark Moon Empire. Shadow. Zhang Yi called out the name in a deep voice, his tone full of wariness. The black-armored knight, Ing Hui, slowly raised his lowered head, his crimson eyes beneath the mask locking onto Zhang Yi. He did not answer immediately, but simply raised the huge cross sword in his hand slightly, pointing the tip of the sword at Zhang Yi and the other two. The action itself was the best declaration of war. A new and fierce battle seems inevitable. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.